Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Generational Wrestling Podcast. As always, is yours truly, the 27-year-old piece of gold, the franchise, aka the showstopper. With me, as always, I got my tag team partner, my brother, my family. He is the flyest in the room, Mr. 1, 2, 3. Pin that ass down, K Breezy, aka Too Cold Kimbro in the building, brother. How you doing?
Man, I'm good, man. I'm excited, man. Big day for us, man. Big day.
Well, man, let's not waste no time. Joining us today, we have a very special guest. You may know him as Papa Shango, Kama Mustafa of the Nation of Domination, the good father of Right to Censor. He is WWE Hall of Famer Charles Wright, aka the conductor, the Godfather. How you feeling, brother?
Shoo,
Man,
shoo.
look at all those smiles. Y'all smiling like me. I've been blessed, man. I've been blessed, and life is still pretty good for me.
Oh my goodness. Well, look, like I said before we went on air, we just gonna dive right into it. Before we get to the Godfather, the character, the WWE Hall of Famer, I just want to kind of talk about Charles Wright, the man and the person behind the Godfather, and kind of how you broke into the business. That sound good?
Yo, let's do it.
All right. So, I've been doing, me and my partner, we've been doing our research, doing a lot of digging. And the one thing that I come to find out, man, you a Bay Area native, born and raised.
Born in Palo Alto, California.
Another another thing I found out too, man, you a Raiders fan. You still holding it down for the Raiders clan over
Man,
there?
after last night, I don't know, man. Jesus. I've been a Raider fan since the 70s. I was going to Raider games in 75, 6, 7, believe it or not. I was going, that's really the team that I'm a fan of.
Right.
I got to, I live in Las Vegas, and now that they're here, I got to get used to that Las Vegas thing because to me, they're always the Oakland Raiders. So,
Right,
but the
right.
way that
To everybody.
yesterday, man, whoa, woo! I was getting ready to start taking down some Raider stuff.
Hey, well, we from Cleveland, man. So, with the Browns, we know a lot about that.
Man,
Yeah,
too
we
much.
all played good this year, though.
Yeah,
Hey, man,
we
we
definitely
tried.
doing something this year. Yeah, they definitely showing out, especially our running game. Our running game is really showing out this year. But we still the Browns. You got to keep your fingers crossed. You can't get too happy.
We still the Raiders.
Well, with that being said, so it turns out, man, you was a hell of an athlete growing up, and I just want to kind of run down a couple credentials, if you don't mind. Former standout basketball player, aka the Northern California Basketball Player of the Year in 1979. What a lot of people I think might find more surprising is that you got a full ride football scholarship without ever playing a single game of organized football. Is that true?
I never played tackle football. My mom and dad wouldn't let me play. And back then, I don't know if it's still like that now, but back then you had to have both parents saying the thing. They said, no, you're going to get hurt. So I had to play basketball. So I played basketball really physical, and that's what got me there. But then I always wanted to play football. So when I went to college, I played the first year of college, I'm playing basketball. I didn't want to play it anymore. So I started hanging out with the football players. And I mean, when I got out of high school in 1979, I'm 6'5", 185 pounds. 2 years later, I'm 300 pounds. And I just filled out. I was always big. I just filled out. Started lifting weights, started powerlifting, hanging out with football players. Next thing I know, I got a call from UNR, Nevada Reno. Coach Alt, Chris Alt was the coach there. And they flew me out there and basically put a basketball in my hand. And now I'm like 300 pounds, bench pressing 450, 500 pounds. But I could still dunk a basketball. So they gave me a full ride scholarship. Never played tackle football, organized tackle football in my life. And they made me an offensive tackle.
Now, with basketball, what position did you play in basketball?
Believe it or not, I was only 6'5", but I played center because I was also a high jumper. And I high jumped in high school. And I was a 2-foot jumper though. So if you got me the ball down low, I could elevate on you. The square on top of the basket, I used to be able to touch the top of the square off of a 2-foot jump. So I was quick. So my senior year, I averaged 20 rebounds and 20 points a game.
Man,
But that's just because I played it physical, man. I played it like football. I wanted the ball, and they didn't, back then, players didn't play like that. They didn't play like football players. Now they do. Back then, they didn't.
Man, that's amazing. 6'5" and with an ability like that, and leading, and you're leading in rebounds. I mean, that's. I kind of almost want to ask what happened. Why didn't you choose basketball, or was it not an option?
I
Later on.
well, I was only my problem is I played with my back to the basket as a center, and I was only 6'5". So I went to college. I never really handled the ball. I always posted up low. They got me the ball, and I just 2 foot jump over you. Or if I
Right.
was, we had a thing called CYD, can you dunk? And I averaged like 4 dunks a game because I was a 2 foot jumper, and I could
Right.
go up, get a rebound, come right back down, and go up and ram it. But
Oh
yeah,
my goodness.
but to this day, I'm much more of a basketball fan than I am football.
Basketball fan. So, who you rocking with these days?
I only have my only sports team I have is the Raiders. I
Okay.
have players that I like I like LeBron James. I like a lot of players, but I don't have a team.
I got you. That's
I
a loyal
can
man right
jump on the Golden State, man. I can jump on the Lakers, but that ain't my way, man.
there.
I mean, with players, switching teams so much nowadays, you can't really invest too
Yeah.
much in the team anyway. So, yeah, I totally understand that.
Big LeBron James fan.
Yeah.
I was watching him in high school, so big LeBron James fan.
Speaking of high school, you said you grew up in the 70s in the Bay Area. Bay can get a little crazy. How was it back then growing up for you?
Meaning what? In the
Yeah, I mean, if you had to describe life in the Bay now as opposed to growing up then, would you say you had it
well,
easy?
see,
Was it kind
I
of
actually grew up in Sunnyvale, California,
okay?
which is now called Silicon Valley.
Got
Oh.
you.
And it was very, very liberal. 99% white, liberal. My dad was a tool and die maker. My mom was an RN nurse. So they worked their asses off to get us out of Palo Alto, where we were living, and to get us into this neighborhood. So, like, the only black people in school was me, the Millers, the Wrights, and the Schulers. But it was such a liberal town, man, that we didn't have no problems because it was just, it was very liberal. And
Right,
so,
right.
plus, I was a hell of an athlete, but I didn't have any problems, man. It was cool growing up. And then I would, at home, we listened to the Isley Brothers, the Commodores, the Bar-Kays, Earth, Wind, and Fire. And then I was at school, I was hearing Led Zeppelin and Leonard Skinner. And then when I played basketball, I hate to say this, but I had to go play with the black guys because the white guys weren't as good as the black guys. And so I had to go to Palo Alto, that I played with the brothers. And then I
Gotta sharpen your skill.
I had a weird life, man. I'd go, but yeah. And then my junior year, I was such a good basketball player that the whole starting basketball team was black. When I was a junior and senior, and players went on. Ricky Lewis went on to Stanford. This one, a lot of good players because I wasn't tall, but I was a really good basketball player back then.
Growing up, so
averaging 20 rebounds, yeah, you was good.
But see, nobody wanted them, man. Nobody wanted rebounds. Everybody wanted points, and I wanted rebounds. I wanted to block your shot. I wanted every rebound. Every rebound, I wanted it because I had the chance of dunking it real quick.
Right.
I averaged a lot of offensive rebounds because nobody would go after the ball like I would go after the ball.
Yes.
So you like Dennis Rodman before Dennis Rodman.
Yeah, kind of.
Like almost a Moses Malone.
Yeah, a shorter version.
Yeah.
I don't know. Me and Barkley are probably the same height.
Yeah, right. Well, yeah, because yeah.
So growing up, were you a fan of wrestling, or was that something you got into as you got a little older? How did that come about?
When I grew up, believe it or not, didn't even watch wrestling. You know what I watched? Roller derby. Because in the Bay Area, man, roller derby was bigger than back in the 70s. Roller derby was much bigger than wrestling.
Right.
And and so I watched a little bit of wrestling, but I was Rocky Johnson, Haystack Calhoun's, the Crippler Ray Stevens. I remember guys like that. Of course, the Rocky Johnson was my favorite, The Rock's father. And I just didn't follow it. I didn't, and then I kind of just fell into it. I wasn't a wrestling fan.
Oh wow.
So when you got into it, what was the first thing that really caught your eye and really made you think you could make a profession and career out of this?
When somebody told me Bam Bam Bigelow made $1 million that year, and
Mm.
that's all I needed to hear. I'm like, oh shit, I'm as crazy as these boys. I'm as tough as these guys. I'm probably stronger than most of them. So they were filming a movie out here called Over the Top with Sylvester Stallone. It was an arm wrestling movie. I don't know if you guys remember that or not.
Yeah,
Lot of
I
guys.
do. I'm the oldest one of the group, so I remember. I remember of it.
Good movie, man. Well, a lot of
Yeah.
those guys were wrestlers in that parts in that movie, and I was a manager bartender of a strip club in Las Vegas, and this is like 80, 84 or so, 85, and the dude's like, you should become a wrestler. I'm like, I don't want to do that phony ass wrestling. That was my approach because I was a hardcore like biker type of dude, and they told me Bam Bam made that money. I made a call. They dude told me at Larry Sharp's Monster Factory in New Jersey. He says if you fly yourself out here, we'll put you up in a room because back then you couldn't Polaroid pictures and there were no cell phones and that shit back then. Oh, excuse me, that's back then.
Oh, yeah.
And so I just remember his eye. This time I'm 330, just big, just power lifter, and I mohawk, and I get off the plane, and he looks at me, and he's just I can see his face. Maybe 1 year after that, from that date, I was wrestling in Jerry Lawler in Memphis, Tennessee. Within a year, I was probably in wrestling school a month, and Jerry Lawler seen me. And I was just so different, man. Jerry Lawler seen me. My very first match ever was against Jerry Lawler. This is ever, not no practice matches, no warm up, no. My very first match ever was against Jerry the King Lawler in Memphis, Tennessee on a Monday night. And I beat him in the middle, 1, 2, 3. Never have ever had a wrestling match in my life.
Okay, how did that come about that a guy, so green, so fresh in gets an opportunity like
dude, I'm so green. Whatever, I'm double green.
right, you're forest green, you're green, dark green, but at that moment in time.
There was very few black people in the game at that time. First of all, they were looking for black people, but there wasn't a lot of the black guys weren't really interested in professional wrestling. People were like, oh, they don't get a chance. No, they weren't into it. They would watch, but they weren't into becoming wrestlers. So they were looking for black guys. There was no black guys that were tattooed that looked like me. And so I was just so different that Jerry's like, hey, I can make some money with this kid. And that's why you hear Undertaker tells a story about the first time he met me on his things that he's doing now. And he talks about how green I was because he was I'd been wrestling maybe a month when I wrestled him. And so man, it just moved really fast for me. And then probably a year after that, maybe a year and a half, I was in the WWF at the time. I got there real quick.
My question would be for you, and then I'm going to segue kind of back into this, but you just spoke of the Undertaker. So I got to ask you about the infamous group, man, BSK. For those who don't know what BSK stand for, can you tell the people at home what is it and how did it come about?
BSK is a group of brothers. We got Samoan brothers, we got Puerto Rican brothers, we got black brothers, we got hillbilly brothers, we got dead brothers, the dead men. It was a group of guys that hung out together. We played dominoes together. And we started a group called BSK, which means Bone Street Crew. Bone Street meaning dominoes. Our group, unlike the clique, we were not political. We were just, we were boys, we were homies. We ride or die. We rode together. We fought together. We partied together. And so we formed our own little clique, and it was that, the club, oh my God, it was Yokozuna, Rikishi, the Godwins, Undertaker, me, Masafuji, Paul Bearer, Crush, I think, and Rikishi. And unfortunately, Crush, Paul Bearer, Yoko, and who else? One else is gone. We got 4 of them that are gone, and Masafuji. But yeah, it was cool because at the reunion, the night before we had a BSK reunion in the hotel. And because of the COVID, man, it was all locked down. Once you got to the hotel, you had to be tested. And then once you were tested, you couldn't leave the hotel. And Vince rented out the whole hotel. So we had the whole bar and everything, and nobody could come in. So, boy, what a night that was. We all got together. I think between Booker T and some other guys joined us. Timmy White, they kind of helped. But we probably drank 6, 7 bottles of Jack Daniels that night.
It's funny you said that. Speaking of Booker T, I was listening to Booker T. He was telling a story about you guys and Rick and everybody at the bar, and it was a long night. So with that being said, I want the Godfather to be the Godfather, and I want you to give me the most honest answer possible. Is there anybody in BSK or anywhere that can outdrink the Godfather? And 2, is there anybody that can outsmoke you?
Well, I don't drink much anymore. So I started smoking when I was Papa Shango. I was 27 years old. That's the first time I smoked in my life. And at that time, man, I'm taking Percocets, Percodans, Somas, Vicodins, Vicoprofen, Placidils, Halcyons. That's the type of shit I'm living off of, man. And drinking a bottle of whiskey with it. Well, I tried marijuana for the first time. And within a short time, man, I'll have a shot. You see me have a shot before we start this. I'll have a beer every now and then. But I don't turn it up like I used to turn it up, except that night. So probably, I would say Taker could probably outdrink me. The Godwins, I don't know. The Godwins are both on the ground. So I don't know. Outsmoke me, nobody. And I mean nobody. I mean you, anybody on here. It's such. I'm not sitting here bragging, or maybe I got a problem. But I stay medicated, bro. I stay medicated.
Well, speaking of medicated, man, I seen this story, and then after this, I'm gonna pass it to my partner here. I read up, and I ended up watching the video. You said at one point in time it involved you, Vince McMahon, Stephanie, Linda in the elevator, and you came off that thing and it was smoked up. and Vince kind of just said, you know what, I'll take the next one. How many of those experiences have you had with Vince and other guys at Power, just being you?
I have so. You know what? I love Vince McMahon to death, man, because he has let me be me, and believe me, bro, that's saying a lot. There's been a lot of incidents like that with Vince. But Vince was always cool with me, and to this day, maybe not going to be after today, but I don't know. He's always been cool with me, man. And but that's a true story. What happened is me and a friend of mine named Big Worm, who taught me. In fact, the first time I smoked was with Big Worm. He got me to smoke, and Big Worm would smoke no matter where you were, man. He didn't care. He smoked. He didn't care if it was an elevator. He didn't care. He's in the elevator just puffing, chiefing. The elevator opens up, and those 4 are standing there. And Vince is just looking at me, and the smoke coming out of the elevator. Vince says, "Charles, I think we'll take the next one." A lot, man. A lot. Like I said, I've been smoking strong since Papa Shango. So anytime you see me after Papa Shango, I was medicated.
You bring up Papa Shango. I want to bring it back to wrestling a little bit. What brought up Papa Shango? What was the start and the creation behind that character for you coming to the WWF at that time?
Vince, when he hired me, I had a tryout in Phoenix, Arizona. I was called Sir Charles because Charles Barkley was there. They're trying to put some heat on me, so they called me Sir Charles. Vince hired me. He says, "We're going to put you on payroll. We want you to go home." He goes, "I got to come up with something to hide your face." He goes, "You got this body of a monster, but you got a baby face." So he goes, "I got to do something with your face." And so they came up with Papa Shango to hide my face. And I'm like, today, not that I'm like, that I look that great, but I'm 60 years old, bro. I don't think I look.
Hey, man, you look good, bro. You handle it. You still the Godfather.
Candidates. I'm telling you. BSK, we're on a group chat now on Facebook. We're on a group chat thing, and they're all like, "Papa was right, man," because now they're all trying it. It's becoming legal in so many places. They're like, "Man, it makes this feel better. It makes my back feel better. My knee. I'm not drinking as much." I'm like, try to tell you guys, man. Try to tell you, cannabis. It will
Now,
keep
now,
you young.
now, let me ask you about cannabis because a lot of sports there's talks of them leaning up a little bit as far as the drug testing, as far as marijuana and stuff like that. With you, man, your experience as a former athlete, as a former wrestler, as a former guy that's been on the road 300 days a year, do you think that all sports and professions should allow marijuana usage to be
Yes,
legal?
yes. I'll cut you off. Hell yeah. I mean, it's a plant. It's a plant. It's a healing plant.
Yes,
It's not something that somebody create. It's a plant. Yes, I think the NBA just said that they're going to stop testing.
yes.
There's a lot of sports that don't test, but yeah, I mean, sooner. I mean, probably sooner than later, it'll be legal everywhere. It'll be legal federally really soon. I mean,
So
I don't know if it's going to make it through the House or not, but it's coming.
now I know you out there in Vegas, man. Do we have any Godfather dispensaries coming around the corner?
No, no, don't just like I don't have money like that. I don't have money like that. But what you will see is in California, I'm part of the Dr. Green Thumb. That's Be Real. And
Mhm.
Dr. Green Thumb dispensaries. We're coming out with my own strain, and hopefully it'll be out in February. It's either going to be called Godfather OG or something like that. I know what the bag's going to look like. The bag's pretty cool. But I will have, but that'll only be in California, but it'll be in probably about 25, 30 dispensaries out there. And then once we get them out in Vegas, then we'll get out here. But see, you can only sell it where it's made. And right now they're not in Vegas, so they're only in California.
Got you.
And
But
maybe
I'll
you
have
got
my own strain.
maybe you got to, if you get another strain, maybe you got to call that one the whole train or something like that.
After this, I think I'm going to work on some type of voodoo strain.
Hey, let's do it.
But it's hard because there's so many. I mean, it's hard to get a good strain. If you get something, you want it to be good. You don't want to put your name on it and say, "Man, this Godfather strain is doo doo." You don't want that. You got to wait for the fire. And so they just came up with this new, really good sativa strain, and they're like, "Godfather, you love this, man." So I do, and it's gonna be good, man. We're hoping by February it'll be out.
One last weed related question, then we back to the wrestling art. Sativa or indica?
Sativa.
Gotcha. All right, back to the wrestling. So speaking of the whole train, we got the Godfather. When I watched your interviews, man, you said that the Godfather, it was the easiest character to play because you weren't playing the character, you're playing yourself. Now, my question for you would be the idea of the whole train. How did that come about?
Oh my God. I don't know. The girl calling him the whole train.
Yeah.
I don't know who came up with that. Me having girls was me.
I mean, you're the Godfather. You got to have girls around.
Move the whole train. Shane McMahon came up with that. But I don't know who came up with calling the girls the whole train. But Shane was like, he goes, when you do that splash, you should do something where you shoot them in. And Shane McMahon, this was always his idea. You should shoot them in and wind up. And he's like, remember Soul Train? You'll do it like, Whole Train. And that's where that, and I was like, okay, I'll try it. The name Ho Train, I don't know where that came from. Probably me or my wife. My wife comes up with a lot of that.
Speaking of your wife, man, obviously, like you say, you attribute a lot of your success, especially of the character, to her. How was it going out on TV, man? You got all these women, you doing all these different angles as the Godfather. Was it easy to separate Charles, the husband at home, from the character, the Godfather, or does it go hand in hand?
Godfather, there we go again. Godfather is not a character.
I got
you.
That is him.
Everything that I said I was doing, I was doing. I can't be no more plainer than that. I owned a strip club in Vegas called Cheetahs. I was one of the owners of that. We sold it 2 years ago. I've been in the adult entertainment business all my life. If I was not wrestling, I was working with them hoes. Okay. I'm just telling you, it was me. My wife has no problem with that. My wife has been through so much with them hoes over the years. Nah, man, shit. You know what? It's God's honest truth. God's honest truth. I've been married 20 years. In 20 years, I cheated on my wife with them hoes one time.
Wow.
In 20 years. Now, go back 20 years of the day. Yeah, something different. But yeah, man. So I don't mess with them hoes no more. Besides taking the money, but I don't know how to be no more real. I mean, it was being on TV, telling people to smoke weed, selling pussy. Oh, excuse me, selling
No,
girls.
You good.
I mean, I was living when they made me the good father. I almost quit, man. I'm like, you have no idea when they took the Godfather away from me. I'm going to walk out.
Well, that's what I'm gonna.
I'm sorry, man, but you're good with what you're saying, sir, because the slogan of our show is "Real Talk for Real Fans." So we're not a show that's here to be really gimmicky. We're here to talk wrestling, shoot the shit, and just talk about what it is about this business that we love. And we, like I said, so do you, man? Do you.
I can't help but be me.
I would say, and that's what makes it beautiful.
Bad.
Hey, that's how you're supposed to be. So you good to go.
But yeah, man, I had the time of I was having the time. Can you imagine showing up every day and there's 6 to 10 hoes showing up at your hotel because I would have a limo take me and the girls to the show because they wanted the people to see all them hoes getting out of the car. Right. And so every day they'd have my hotel. They'd show up at my hotel. I'd say show up at 12. Me and Teddy Long would go ahead.
So for every city, did you have someone that would gather the hoes for you?
At first, me, Undertaker, and the Harris twins, who were bikers at the time, we would go the night before and recruit the hoes because we knew them all. We knew them all. That's all we did was go strip clubs. We knew all the hoes. And so after like 2 or 3 times, it took off. It got so big that they took it over. And they started getting them from strip clubs. But believe me, they're still hoes. And I'd have them girls show up. You'll hear a funny story. I'd have them girls show up, right? And they'd show up to mine. I'd be like, if you drink, smoke, whatever it is, bring it, man. We'll get you right before we go to the show. So them girls would be lit before they get on the show. This is okay. Here's the story you're going to like. Okay, here was my deal. Like I told you, I ain't messed around on my wife in 20 years, right?
Right.
This is the deal I had with them hoes. I would tell you because I'm not saying I had this deal with Vince, but let's just say that I kind of agreed that I wouldn't fly on planes with marijuana. Okay, and so I didn't. And so this is the deal I had with them hoes. Once one of them, I call them what they are. Once one of these hoes would go on TV and see all that show, they'd want to do it again. I'm like, listen, this is how you do it. Next time we're in town, you just show up. You say you wanted a Godfather's hoes, and I'll vouch for you. Come on in. This is what I want from you.
Right.
I said, I want at least a quarter ounce of the best chronic you can find me. I said, now you go tell your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your mama, your daddy, I don't care. I said, but if it's your boyfriend or your girlfriend, they'll be so happy you ain't sucking my nuts that I'm going to get some good weed out of this. And they would laugh just like you would. And so they would show up to my hotel room every day and show up here you go, Godfather. Here you go, Godfather. Here's your Godfather. Yeah, man. Every day. And I'd be out in like camping, baby. I'd be out in the pool. And back then, man, the people, for some reason, I used to think, man, let me get this camera right. For some reason, I used to think marijuana was legal because no matter where I talked about Big Worm, no matter where, man, I used to just blaze and people like you were Snoop Dogg or something. People wouldn't even say nothing. The worst I would get would be, "Hey, Godfather, can you go out back and smoke a bit?" All right, cool, man.
Well, I mean, you are a big black man. I don't think too many people want to, say anything really to you. It's like, well, you gonna say something? I ain't gonna say nothing. He's just gonna be standing there doing what he do. So, you kind of had that advantage to work in your favor.
I got another question for you. So you say, the Godfather, when they turned you into the Godfather, usually with Stevie Richards and Ivory and everything. What was the reasoning behind that? Why did they decide to change you?
Vince was taking so much heat. That's the time they went from cable to the network. He went private or public, public. Now he's got to answer to people. And they were just like, when we were on cable, nobody was really looking what we were doing. But then all of a sudden we went to the networks, all the sponsors were seeing Suck It and puppies and girls in bikinis. And then they're like, and who is this guy, the Godfather? And Val Venus was worse than me, the shit he used to say.
Right, he was the porn star.
He just wasn't as popular as the Godfather. But
Right.
he was saying worse stuff. He was saying really bad stuff. And so there was a group. It was called not PTA. It was RTP or some group. I don't know the name of it. But they were on Vince so hard, and Vince used to tell me every day, Charles, I'm fighting for you. I'm fighting for you, but they're making it hard. And it got to the point that I couldn't be on Saturday or Sunday. I had to be on after 10 o'clock at night. I couldn't say pimp. I couldn't say host. Couldn't say roll a fatty. Couldn't say smoke weed. And it became stupid. So it got to the point where people wouldn't, they were like, I was Godfather light. And so he goes, we're going to put you in the right to censor for a short time and make fun of them. And I just remember being in that office going, wait, so no more hoes? And I don't know, all I hear is going, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, no more hoes? I just kept saying, so I ain't got my hoes no more? And I almost at that point said, well, I quit. And then I tried the best I could when they put me in that group, but I really hated it. And I was going to quit. And I'm like, man, I'm going to go there and quit. And then I think Taker or somebody told Vince I was going to quit. So Vince dropped the straps on us.
Mm.
I'm loyal. I ain't gonna walk out with them with the straps and shit. I'm not gonna do that to them. They've been too cool with me. So all of a sudden they dropped the straps on me and bull.
When you guys were when you were in the right to censor, you guys, at that time the tag team division had really kind of come up. You had the Hardy Boys, kind of coming in. I believe
Dudley Boys,
Hardy Boy. Right. So you had some really good tag team groups in there that you guys were in there with. What was the one team that you weren't afraid of them, but man, you didn't want to go against them, but you loved going against them. If you understand what I'm saying.
Nobody. I'm just being honest. I mean,
yeah.
It's like I didn't want to get in the ring with none of
them. Nobody. Nobody. But see, we all work together, man. It wasn't even like that. But we probably in real life could have beat up any group. So right. But it wasn't like that, man. It just we were cool with everybody. Just we weren't afraid of nobody.
Okay. Well, well, not say much as you was afraid, but just that one team is like, man, they're gonna really bring it, and man, I'm gonna be sore after this match. Like, who was that one team?
Nobody.
It could go extremely wrong when you go against them.
There was nobody stiffer than like Mark Henry and me, and there's nobody stiffer than us.
Okay. All right.
In fact, I would have liked it if people would have been more like. I used to love wrestling Bradshaw because he was just a crowbar, man. He was stiff. But I loved working him because it was easy to sell his shit. We used to beat the hell out of each other, man, and just laugh about it and have beer afterwards.
Man, yeah, y'all did that.
All right, so speaking of guys like you, Taker, Bradshaw, Mark Henry, there's this whole thing, man. It's not just with wrestling, it's with all sports. That the current landscape is a lot more friendly. It's a lot less physical. The competition, to a degree, has sort of gotten soft. You being an old school guy, man, coming from where you come from, coming in right before the Attitude Era, living out through the Attitude Era, being on the road every single night. What do you think about the current landscape of not just WWE, but professional wrestling in general, as compared to back in the dog days when you was in it?
Dude, I ain't one of them dudes to say back in the day, I ain't like that, man. When I came in and Papa Shango, they hated on me. They hated because I was going to ruin wrestling and I was too much of a gimmick. And, wrestling changes with the times, and all wrestling is doing is changing with the times. Wrestlers are more acrobatic now. They're doing more moves. They're doing more spots. I don't like this leg slap shit, but other than that, just different time. I ain't here to hate on nobody. The business is different. I would have a hard time working in the business now. When I was in the business, it was more a family. And even if you didn't like somebody, if you were in a bar and they were getting their ass whipped, you jumped over there and helped them. Right. And it's not that anymore. It's all business now. And it's more it's how many followers you have or how many likes you get and keeping up with your social media. And we didn't have that back in our day. I wish we did. I'd had 1 trillion followers following me.
You would have been in Facebook jail and all that Instagram booked, and you would have been in there quite a few times because I'm pretty sure you would have definitely posted some stuff. So,
more than likely, yeah. Dude, I'm telling you, bro, I'm still living the life. If you go on my Instagram and Like to see where I was last night, man. I mean, we were smoking out of a 5-foot hookah last night. So I mean, believe me, I'm still living the life. And what's cool is, now I'm out there showing. I've always smoked, but I had to hide it pretty much for a long time. But now I don't have to hide it no more. So I really didn't hide it either.
Me and my partner, we wanted to ask you, what do you think about the Nation of Domination? If they're, what are your thoughts on forming that group back then, and what it meant and what it stood for? And do you think that could it last, and could it be something valuable in today's wrestling?
I don't think it could be in the format that it was, the way society is now. It couldn't be the way it was. I think the Hurt Business is as close as you're going to get to it. Today, they'd be baby faces. We were hated, man. I'm telling you, we were hated, and we loved it. I didn't know the significance of it when we were doing it. I didn't know that The Rock was going to become the star that he is out of it. We kind of knew what was going on. I knew what was going on. I knew that they were going to bring Mark Henry in, and they were going to bring Ahmed in. I knew all that, but it was a good group. We're all still friends. We all helped each other. We all looked out for each other, and we helped. It was a great group. I think that group, sooner or later, when they figure out what they're going to do with The Rock, will be in the Hall of Fame. I think they'll put that group in the Hall of Fame sooner or later.
Speaking of the heat that you guys got, man, can you remember the first time in public, a fan or somebody outside pretty much tried to do something crazy to you or one of the guys due to you guys being in the Nation of Domination on TV?
Never. Like
again,
said,
man.
I'm a big black dude. All right, so now you got 5 big black dudes. So they gonna mess with me. They're gonna mess with 5 of us.
Exactly.
Exactly. No problems, man. We used to, back in the day, way before the Nation, we got in a lot of fights. But now mind you, this is before Sports Center, cell phones, laptops, internet. And when, say you were in Vegas, well, what happened in Vegas stayed in Vegas. So, I mean, me and Taker, man, I'm telling you, me and Taker, Yoko, Rikishi, Savio can go. We've been in a lot of fights. You just didn't hear about it. But back then, people would challenge you, man. And we were quick to, all right.
I cannot want to. I don't know who in their right mind would want to say, you know what, I want to go at those guys and look at each and every single one of you and be like, yeah, I can take one of them. I don't know the person in their right mind that would think that looking at you guys.
Somebody drinking too much. I don't know.
Drinking too much, smoking too much, something. They were doing something too much.
We never, if we were in 30, 40 fights, we never ever got in trouble for it. Because we never would start shit. We never started. It usually be one of us taking somebody's girl, or the girl's hanging on somebody, or, me walking out, well, we'll leave that alone.
Understood. We got you.
So when I listen to you speak and when I listen to the Undertaker speak, it's very evident you two guys are very close. We're very close. Are you guys still super close today?
Super close. He's still my brother. He laughs at me because I've really only been on the my Instagram. I've only been on since I think I started in February.
Oh, wow.
And so because I couldn't smoke on there, so I'm like, I don't want to be on there if I can't smoke. And so he called me. He's like, "Did you just discover Instagram?" He goes, "Jesus Christ, you're supposed to." It was just we talk all the time. We never talk wrestling. Ever talk wrestling. We talk about his kids, my kids, guns. If we do talk wrestling, it's about old times, in the past.
Right.
Well, I have one last question about Taker before we come back to you. So this past Survivor Series, we had his 30th anniversary, his final farewell. I want to ask you, because you were one of the guys there, obviously one of the guys that's closest to him. How did you feel, and what was the thought process initially with having you guys come out and having Taker come out, and then when they had Taker out, you guys weren't there in the ring? I see a lot of fans on social media didn't like that. Me and my partner, we kind of was like, what was the point? Can you kind of walk us through what the reason was?
They didn't tell us what we were doing till maybe an hour before. They said, okay, we're going to line you up in this order. You're going to go out there. You're going to do this. And then it's going to go to a B-roll, and then you guys are just going to leave. You're like, okay. What sense does that make? And they're like, hey, bruh, They pay you well to do that shit.
Hey,
Respect.
My time was the night before when we had the BSK reunion, and that was my Survivor Series. What they did on the show, that's their thing, man. I got nothing to do with that. Whatever you want me to do, you know, that made no sense to me. But hey, it's not my show. But believe me, we turned it up the night before. We turned it up.
let me ask you this: out of everybody that turned up, yourself excluded, man, who turned up the hardest with the Godfather the night before?
Me and Taker put everybody. Rikishi and Savio Vega walked by themselves, but me and Taker walked everybody else to their rooms and made sure they got there, hugged each other, and then went to our rooms. So we were the last man standing. And it's been like that always. Me and him were the big Jack Daniels drinkers back, and Yoko was a real big Jack Daniels drinker.
Oh my God. Well, hey man, it's too cold, man. You got anything else left for our guest, man, the Godfather?
We talked about this earlier. We talked about Papa Shango. We talked about the Godfather. Of course, we had to talk about the hoes. We talked about the right.
Tell you what we didn't talk about. We didn't talk about you guys coming to Vegas when this COVID's over. Me grabbing some hoes and taking you guys out.
Well, first, let me make sure I say this publicly because I am married. So you know, I'm married. So I don't want no smoke. I don't want no smoke this way. I'm good, but I do want to come hang out with the Godfather. I mean, the hoes aside, I wouldn't mind coming to hang with the Godfather.
If you don't smoke, you're gonna have a hard time.
I'll drink with you, buddy. We'll still kick it. We'll still kick it. It don't matter. I'll still hang out with you.
There we go.
Hey, come on, man. Look, hey, I'm never gonna ever let me put this out there real quick for my fiance, because she gonna watch this. I got a fiance. But with that being said, goddamn it, this is the Godfather. I'm gonna hang with the Godfather.
We gonna come hang with the Godfather. That's not even a question. It don't matter. We got to hang with the Godfather, so we good.
That'll be good. I can't wait.
Before we get off, I got one last thing that just slipped my mind. So, pimping ain't easy. You and Ice-T. How did that come about?
I had nothing to do with that. That was all Vince's. Vince is a river. Me and Ice-T had a little heat way back in the day. Nothing major. He don't even probably remember. But at Vegas, so I didn't really care for him that much. And I told Vince the story, what happened between me and him. And so I was talking with Snoop, and Snoop's like, "Hey man, I got this new cat named Exhibit, man. He's coming out. You should have him do your song, man." And I'm like, yeah. So I went to Vince about it. He goes, "Well, Charles, we've already got Ice-T. He's a pimp too, and this and that." I'm like, I told you that story. All right, man. So it is what it is. I think it was a shitty song. I thought it was a shitty ass song. Pimpin' ain't easy, man. Pimpin' ain't grab your bitch ass. I'm like, you couldn't have put more fucking into that. Pimpin' ain't easy, man. Pimpin' ain't grab your bitch ass.
Oh man, they could have got too short, man. It would have been better.
Yeah.
Hey. Well, with that being said, Godfather, man, once again, it's been an honor and a privilege. I appreciate you, brother. Thank you for coming in, tuning in, sharing your stories with us. Like I said, man, me and him, we talk about this all the time. So to actually get you live on the cam, man. And I was gonna say in person, but with COVID, it's got me fucked up.
Hey, this is close enough. This is good enough for me.
This is good enough.
Right. Yes, I'm ecstatic. Like, again, thank you for taking the time to, like I said, to sit down and talk with us and just shoot the shit with us. Like I say, real talk for real fans. And this is what we do. We have real talk. We say what we say. We try not to be offensive. We try to be, somewhat politically correct, but we also want to be honest. So, thank you for coming on the show with us.
I had a great time. I want everybody to stay on that smoke train. That's when they finally get me to stop using the Godfather. I got the smoke train.
You got it already. Got it ready. Got the shirt ready.
Okay. Check me out on Instagram too, and I got a YouTube channel, Smoke Train. But you can catch it on my bio on my Instagram. But follow me at the Godfather, man. Keep smoking, keep pimping, and everybody stay safe. And it was a pleasure to be on here.
Thank you, my brother. Appreciate you. All right, too cold, man. So we just wrapped up our very first interview, man, with the legendary, the Hall of Famer, the Godfather. Brother, how do you feel? How do you feel?
Dude, I'm ecstatic, man. Our first interview, with a a Hall of Fame wrestler, somebody that I've grown up watching. I remember him as Papa Shango, coming into the business, being one of those kids like, who is this guy? And man, he's mean and he's weird and he's different. And to see him transform from that to being, in a Nation of Domination, and then the whole train, and then being the Godfather, and just seeing that transition, and then the right to censor, and then yeah, man, it was yo, man, I don't know, man. I'm ecstatic, man. It was cool as hell, man. To just to be able to sit and talk with him, and just kind of just him being real. That's the slogan of the show, man. Real talk for real fans, and that's what we want to do. We want to have a real conversation, and just ask some questions, and you know, kind of pick their brain a little bit. And we thank him for taking the time out, for allowing us to kind of pick his brain, get some little stories, some extra stuff that we really wasn't expecting. You didn't know what to expect. It's the Godfather, but hey, we appreciate him for coming on and talking with us.
Yeah, man. Me and you talked right before we came back on air, man. I think we both had to take a second to have just a mark out moment, a freak out
Man,
moment. I was over here punching the air, you know what I'm saying?
man,
Ah,
I went straight upstairs to the wife, like, man, man, he just invited us to Vegas. Woo, 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 woo. I told him I was married, babe. So I'm on record. I'm married, but it's the Godfather, man. Who wouldn't go kick it with the Godfather, man? Drink up.
man.
I get shit faced and have a good time. So, yeah, man. But again, that was first ever interview. That was cool. Somebody, like I say, somebody I watched growing up, Hall of Famer, awesome dude, as you see. And yeah, man, that was. I'm just babbling, man. I'm excited, man.
Hey,
I ain't got nothing else to say, man.
oh man. Well, with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, again, thank you for tuning in to a very special edition of the GOW, the Generation Wrestling Podcast. It's yours truly, man, the 27-year-old piece of gold. He's too cold. And until next time, we'll see you when we see you. Peace.